Daf Ayin Tes Summit Base, right at the top. Klav K'dei Lichtav Alav Parsha Ketana. The Mishnah said that the shiur for Klav is the size that you can write the Parsha Ketana, the small Parsha in Tefillin Shema. To write the Parsha of Shema Yisrael. The Gemara Rimenu will ask you steer from the Brisa. It says Klav V'Duchsustus K'dei Lichtav Alav Mezuzah. It has to be enough for Klav, the size, or for the success, is to write a mezuzah. A mezuzah is comprised of two parshas, Shema and Vayam Shemoah. So, l'chayra, you need enough of the Klav not to write just the parsha of Shema. It has to be large enough that you can write both parsha Shema and Vayam Shemoah. Stir Mishnah. What is Klav and what is Duchsustus? You take the hide from the animal, and sometimes they would split it in two. The Klav is the outer part, the part that faces outside, and the Duchsustus is the part of it that is closer to the basar, to the flesh of the animal, on the inner side of it. Klav is the outer half, and Duchsustus is the inner half. Al Kol Panim, it says both by Klav and Duchsustus is to write the parsha, to write a mezuzah, which are the parsha Shema, and Vayayim Shemoah, not just the parsha of Shema. More answers, my mezuzah Shabbat Tefillin. What's referring to is not the mezuzah itself, mamash mezuzah. It means the parsha of a tefillin. And the parsha of tefillin that we're talking about is the parsha of Shema, the smallest one. The Ritva explains why it would be called mezuzah if it's referring to one of the parshas of the tefillin. He says just like by the mezuzah, the parsha is rolled up. You roll it up and you fix it to the door. And here also the parsha is rolled up and put into one of the bottom of the tefillin. It's inserted in one of the bottom of the tefillin. Al Kapanim, the Gemara answers when it says over here, mezuzah, it doesn't mean literally a mezuzah. It means one of the parshas of the tefillin, the parsha of Shema. The Gemara, does the Tana refer to tefillin? Does he call it by the name of mezuzah? Our answers in, yes, we do find that. We have a precedent. We see in the Brisa, it says, Ritzuah tefillin, ima tefillin, the ritzuas, the straps of the tefillin, with the tefillin, metamas yadayim. When they're attached, they're metamas yadayim. If a person touches it, then his hands become tomei legabe truma. Then he can't eat truma. It's one of the yudches gzeras that it's metama, the kaidish is metama the yadayim. So the tefillin, the Ritzusa tefillin, if they're with the tefillin, the metamas yadayim, bifnei asman, but if they're not connected, ain't metamas yadayim. The Ritzuas themselves are not metamas the yadayim. If they're attached, affixed to the tefillin, then they're metamas yadayim. Shimon Yehuda Omer Mishum Shimon, Nagei Ritzua Tor. He says no. Touching the Ritzuah does not make his hands Tomei, does not make him Tomei Legabi Truma. He has to touch one of the bottom, but not the Ritzuah itself. He says it's Tor until he touches the mezuzah. Now we're talking in the context of tefillin over here, and it says mezuzah must mean the parsha. He says the only tumas yadayim is touching the kisvei kaidish. The kisvei kaidish, the mezuzah, the parsha itself, but not the Ritzuah and not the bottom. Al Kol Panim, you see, what does it say? It's referring to the parsha of the tefillin, calls the mezuzah. It says in the Sefer, Klav, K'dei Lichtav Parsha Ketana Shabbat Tefillin Shu Shema Yisrael. The Sefer says that Klav is the size is Lichtav Parsha Ketana Shabbat Tefillin, which is Shema Yisrael. Nechal Dereisha Mezuzah Asma Skinan. But the Sefer, that Brisa, it says that the Klav is to write a Parsha Ketana Shabbat Tefillin, which is Shema Yisrael. So it must be that the Reisha, when it says mezuzah, it means that literally mezuzah. So it must mean literally mezuzah. More answers, Klav Duchsustus shiurin bekana. No, this is what it means. The Reisha is as follows. Klav Duchsustus, what's the shiur? Duchsustus, Lichtav alav mezuzah. If it's Duchsustus, that's enough the size to write a mezuzah. Klav, it's klav. They look like parsha ketana shebetzvil and shishma Yisrael. But if it's klav, it's the size is to write a parsha ketana shebetzvil and shishma Yisrael, which is shma Yisrael. We're splitting it up. The ratio that says klav, it's talking about in the ratio, and it says klav et duchsustas, and it says k'nei lichta mezuzah. It's really klav et duchsustas, an introduction. Klav et duchsustas. Now the Bryce explains. If it's talking about the klav, so we say klav et duchsustas. If it's talking about the klav, that's going to be the parsha ketana shema Yisrael. The klav et duchsustas, if it's duchsustas, that means literally mezuzah. If it's klav, then the shir is to write a parsha of Shema, of parsha ketana shebetzvil, which is Shema Yisrael. The Rishonim point out that irrespective of our Mishnah, you have to give a teretz to the brisa, because otherwise the brisa is a stir minei ubei. The Reisha starts off saying klav duchsusta k'dei lichla mezuzah, and then the seif of the brisa says klav k'dei lichla parsha ketana shebetzvil. So irrespective of our Mishnah, it's a stir minei ubei. So we have to give a teretz like this. The Rishonim speak out that in Chanami they could have asked to steer on the brisa itself, but the derech of the Shas is to ask it on the Mishnah, because we're trying to be mevar the Mishnah, and they can ask the question to our Mishnah. But in Chanami, it has to be the brisa itself, l'chayr is muchach, that we have to give a similar type of a teretz. So that's how we're understanding it. If it's klav, if we're talking about klav, it's parsha ketana shebetzvil. Duchsustos is the mezuzah, which is Shema and Bayam Shema. Amar Rav, duchsustos hareka klav. Rav says that duchsustos is like klav. They have the same dinner. What does that mean? Ma klav kaismelav tefillin, just like klav. You can write tefillin on, it's kosher for tefillin. Af duchsustos kaismelav tefillin. So he holds that duchsustos is also kosher for tefillin. In fact, the Gemara Tanan, we learned the Mishnah klav k'dei lichta v'la parsha ketana shebetzvil shishma Yisrael. So it says klav, the shir is to write the parsha of Shema, the parsha of Tefillah Shema Yisrael, which is mashma, that is klav in duchsustos loyes. Mashma, that is davka, that tefillin is davka on klav and not on duchsustos. And Rav is saying that klav, you can write tefillin, duchsustos as well. It's mashma, it's davka klav, it's just klav, it's not duchsustos. Moran says lemitzvah, and echanami lemitzvah lechatchila. It should be done that way. Lechatchila, it should be done. That tefillin is davkan klav. But b'di'evet, if you wrote on duchsustos, it's also kosher. Rav was referring to the din b'di'evet, but in echanami lechatchila, the tefillin should be written on klav. So Shema Shivakasha Alach L'Moshe Sinai. Tefillin ala klav umezuz ala duchsustos. It says halach l'moshe seen that tefillin is on klav and mezuz on duchsustos. So you see that they're separate. You see that tefillin is klav apparently and not duchsustos. Mezuz is duchsustos and apparently not klav. Now another additional halach is klav v'malkam basar. When we say klav, as we mentioned before, klav is the outer half, the half of the hide that when it's split in two, the half that's facing away from the basar of the behemoth. However, there are two sides to that half. When they split the hide in two, so they split it in two, so the outer part is now the klav. Is it the inner part of that or the outer part of that? So it's from both the hide itself, it's split. It's the klav, it's the outer part, like the klipa. But is it the inner side or the outer side of that klav? So the Brisa says that klav is b'malkam basar. The klav that's kosher, it's not the outer part of it, it's the underside of it. It's b'malkam basar, which is closer to the flesh. It's the outer half, but it's the underside of that outer half. The duchsus is b'malkam seir. When we say duchsuster, we say that's the lower half, but that is the outer part of the lower half. It's the The chsustus is the half of it that's closer to the flesh, but it's the outer side, the one that's facing the hair, that's the upper part of it, rather than the other side of it. So klaf v'malkam basar v'chsustus v'malkam seir. So al kol panim, you see that it says that a tefillin is a klaf and mezuzah on the chsustus. Mashma tefillin davka al klaf, not on the chsustus. The more answers again, lemitzah. That's lemitzah, but it's not ma'akev. We learn in the Brisa Shina possible. It says if it was changed, if it was reversed, it's possible. So it's mashma that tefillin is davka klaf, not on the chsustus. More answers a mezuzah. It means it's a mezuzah. That if mezuzah was changed, if the mezuzah was not specifically on the chsustus and the outer side of the chsustus, then it's possible. But the tefillin, if there's a shinoi on the tefillin, if the tefillin was written on the chsustus, it's kosher. It says on both bezeh, which is mashma on tefillin as well. If there's a change, if there's a shinoi, that's possible. One answer is idi mezuzah. Both cases are referring to mezuzah. It's not referring to tefillin. Tefillin on the chsustus, Rav will hold is kosher. What it means is shina bezeh, either way that he deviated from the halacha of mezuzah, that it has to be dafka on the outer side, the upper side of the chsustus. That means if he wrote it on klaf, if he wrote it on a klaf in the outer side of the klaf, or even on the chsustus, on the underside of the chsustus, it's also possible. I'll tell you really that ton of the Brisa, when it says Shina could be referring to tefillin as well, and therefore could be saying that tefillin, if it was written on the chsustus, it is possible. Rav is saying that it's kosher. Rav is going according to this other Tana. It's a machlokes Tanaim. The Tana we see in another Brisa, Shina bezeh possible. Ravacha machshir mishum Ravacha Baruch. So it says Shina bezeh is possible, and it's however Rabbi Acha, and who said the name of Ravacha Baruch Hanina, says it's kosher. Va'amala mishum Rav Yaakov Baruch Hanina. Some say he said the name of Ravacha Baruch Hanina, that it's kosher. So you see, it's machlokes Tanaim. Rav Papa Amar, similar teretz. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Amar, Ketana the Beit Menashe. Rav, who said that tefillin b'chsus, this is kosher, holds like the Tana of Beit Menashe. The Tana of Beit Menashe, kasal in niyar. If he wrote it on paper, the niyar was made out of, in those days, out of grass. Out of grass, they made paper. Va'al hamatlis, or if it was made on a matlis, it was made on a piece of linen, psula, then it's possible. If you wrote it on those materials, it's possible. Al haklav, but if you wrote on klav, vala givil, or he wrote it on givil, what is givil? So Rashi says that givil is treated with gallnut juice. Tosfos has on for Hesber that it's the whole hide. It's the whole hide. It's not split into two. We said before the cloth is take the hide. It's when they split it in two, it's the upper part. The chsus is the lower part. Gevil is the whole hide. It's the complete hide, and which, as Rashi says, it's also been completely treated. It's been treated with gallnut juice. So ala klav, ala gevil, vala duchsustas ksher. Then it's kosher. So kalsamai. What is it referring to? What was written? What is he talking about that is written? What was written? Mezuzah. If it's referring to a mezuzah klaf mikasvina, is a mezuzah kosher on klaf? Mezuzah is not kosher klaf, so it can't be referring to a mezuzah elalav tefillin. It must be referring to tefillin, and it says clearly that a duchsus is kosher. So Rav could be going according to this Tana, the Tana Beit Menashe. More, what do you mean? He's saying me that it's referring to tefillin or tamech, tefillin, agavil, mikasvina. It says gvil is tefillin kosher on gvil. You can't write tefillin on gvil. Ella must be kitanya b'sefer Torah. It's referring to a sefer Torah. It's not talking about tefillin at all. So we have no raya that tefillin is on duchsus. This is not referring to tefillin. It's referring to sefer Torah. Let's bring a raya to this. If you have a worn out tefillin, or Sefer Torah Shabbat, Sefer Torah that's worn out, you cannot take the parshas from them and make a mezuzah out of it and insert it in the mezuzah for the mezuzah. Because you can't lower it from a higher kedusha to a lower kedusha. A Sefer Torah and Tefillin has a higher kedusha than mezuzah, so you can't take the parshas from a Sefer Torah and the Tefillin and turn it into a mezuzah. So time of Ein Marid. Why can't you do that? Because of Ein Marid. You don't lower the kedusha. But without this reasoning, then you would be able to do it. Theoretically, you could, except for this reason of Ein Marid. So Hamari nice. So the Ksiva Mai. What was it written on? What was it? The parshas? What were the parshas? What were they written on that we would think to say that you can use it for mezuzah? So what was it? So the Ksiva Mai. Lav the Ksiva Duchsustas. Is it not referring to that it was written on Duchsustas and now you want to use it for mezuzah? So doesn't that show you that the tefillin could be written on Duchsustas? So therefore, Lema Messiah to Rav, is this not a raya to Rav that we said that tefillin is on klaf and Duchsustas? So let's bring a raya to what he said. When it says like Duchsiva al klaf, it's not written on Duchsustas, so you have no raya to Rav. You can't say Lema Messiah to Rav because let's say it's referring to it's talking about klaf, and then theoretically you could use it for a tefillin. But because of the svara, but you could use it rather for mezuzah. Theoretically, you could use it for mezuzah, but because of the svara of Ein Maridin, you can't. Frankly, more mezuzah klaf mikasvina. What do you mean? You're saying it's written on klaf? Is a mezuzah? Can a mezuzah be written on klaf? That you're saying it's for the reason of Ein Maridin that you cannot turn it into mezuzah? Can a mezuzah be written on klaf? What's this in? Yes, Valtanya kasal klaf al nyarav al matlis psula. If it was written on klaf on the Aram Matlas of Psula, and Amar Rishim ben Lazar, Ramer Haya Kaisal klaf. But Ramer, he said the Ramer did write it on the klaf, Mipneshim Bishlamers. So you see, it's referring to a mezuzah, and it is kosher klaf. So you have no raya to Rav from here, because I could tell you that we're talking about it was written on klaf, and klaf is kosher for tefillin, klaf is kosher for Sefer Torah, and if not for the reason of Ein Maridin, you would think that you could turn it into a mezuzah. Now we have the svara of Ein Maridin, but you have no raya that tefillin could be written on Duchsustas. Some more answers. So now the Gemara says we can now reinterpret our whole understanding of what Rav said. And now we really perhaps will say that Ravi did not mean what we assumed to mean what he said. We assumed that he meant when Duchsustas is already klaf, that what he meant to say is the Duchsustas is like klaf. Just like klaf you can write a tefillin, Duchsustas you can also write tefillin. But now that we've shown that mezuzah can be written on klaf, now we can reinterpret our understanding of what Rav meant, and he never meant that tefillin can be written on Duchsustas, and it's a whole different understanding, and therefore we don't have any of the kashas from the Baraisa, and therefore don't say that Duchsustas is a klaf, like we originally understood, and therefore meaning to say that Duchsustas can be used for tefillin. No. The opposite way around. The klaf is like Duchsustas. Ma Duchsustas koisvan la mezuzah, just like we know that Duchsustas can be used for mezuzah of klaf, koisvan la mezuzah. Klaf can also be kosher for mezuzah. But in terms of a tefillin, no. Perhaps the tefillin is davke klaf, only klaf, and not Duchsustas. So therefore, tefillin, it would be, according to this understanding, tefillin is davke klaf, and kipshutay of what our Mishnah is mashma, and the Brisa, and the first Brisa that we mentioned, tefillin is davke klaf. Mezuzah could be written on both. And but tefillin is only klaf.